we first introduced you to Callum Stokes in episode 26 of season 1. That was a long time ago, Elaine.
Have you made it up, or is it really that long ago?
No, Gareth researched it. He said that's right. Okay.
Then, that's okay.
Yeah, and do you remember we spoke to Callum about starting out and having a starter plot on our site? Well, things have moved on since then, Elaine. He's now on a full plot and we want to find out all about it.
Callum, thanks very much for joining us. I don't know if you're scared. I don't know why you're over the other side of the table instead of being this side, but nevertheless, you've now moved on to a full-size plot. Why are you still here?
I ask myself that question every day. I'm still here because I love this site. I love this site more than anything. It's so friendly, it's so lovely, especially in the summer. I'm still here because I love growing. I love being at the allotment. It's done so much for me in the past year in terms of my confidence, my mental health, my physical health as well. And I just wanted to carry that on for as long as possible.
That's actually really interesting that you include physical health, because very few people mention it. You do have to be fit and healthy, don't you, to get going on an allotment. And a lot of people don't realise how much physical work is involved in it all.
No. Tell us what you've been up to on your new plot then.
So we took our plot on back last July, and to say it was a mess is an understatement. It was very overgrown, and it was a massive challenge. I think we looked at it at first and went, what are we doing? Why are we doing this? But we started off by planning it out, deciding exactly where we wanted everything to go and how we wanted it to be when we got round to the end. We then identified some plants that we wanted to keep that were on the plot, because we had some beautiful, absolutely stunning roses that I just couldn't bear to get rid of. So we now have something like 15 roses, which all but one have survived so far, touch wood. I'm hoping that last one will start to show at some point. But and then we've just been a lot of digging, a lot of weeding, a lot of levelling, getting beds put in, and we're just sort of halfway through. I don't even know, I can't even say halfway through because it feels like it, but we've done so much.
But Callum, I mean, it's fair to say that you and Jacob have almost been living up here over the past 12 months. We see you virtually every day because we're up here virtually every day. Why are you, a young person, involved in allotmenting? Why aren't you doing something different? Because this has always been deemed as an old person's game, even though we're not old, Julia.
No, we're not.
So why is it that you're still involved?
I'm still involved. I mean, I've loved gardening since I was little, and a lot of people do say to me, it's weird that someone of your age would be obsessed with going to the allotment. When I finish work, I'm straight down. On a Saturday, I'm down as often as I can get down. I just love it here. But for me, I've lived my life. I've done the partying, I've done everything in between, and this is so much better. I get so much more enjoyment out of it. And when I feel rough the next day, it's normally from good aches and pains, not not a headache and a dodgy tummy.
Tell us about your successes then, because you've moved from a starter plot, which, if we explain to people, is just a 7 by 3 metre allotment plot. You've taken it, it was already dug over, and then you got into planning because we taught you how to do that, and then you moved on. Tell us about your successes.
Oh gosh, I mean, there's been so many. I think it's all been a massive success, really. Even the failures have been a success because I have learnt my lesson a lot of times. Successes, I mean, we absolutely filled that starter plot. It was brimming. There wasn't actually a lot of space to walk around. We had a nice little square path, and at one point it turned into a U-path because everything just overgrew and took over. Then moving on to the new plot, I mean, it's one big success. I was looking earlier at pictures from when we first got it compared to now, and it's unrecognisable, the amount of progress we've made. And it's nice to look back on them pictures, because sometimes, so when you're down all the time and you're doing bit by bit by bit, it feels like you're not actually doing anything because the change is so slow and gradual. But when you start to look back and see that big comparison, that big change, you're like, oh, actually, it really lifts you up when you're feeling a bit defeated, which, you know, I won't lie, especially over winter with the weather. We've had a few days where we've been, what are we doing? We've got nowhere. Are we going to be ready for the growing season? A lot of panic, a lot of feeling a bit defeated at times, but looking back on that, it's actually like, well, actually, maybe we shouldn't be so hard on ourselves just because we're not exactly where we want to be. But I mean, we wanted it done from day one, so it's always going to take time.
And that is the difficulty we've mentioned before, and particularly people who come to the starter plots who have no history at all, either in their family or themselves, of having a previous allotment. They watch the television programmes and everything's done in 24 hours. The reality is it's 24 months if you're lucky.
Yeah. Do you think being on the starter plots kind of has helped you in your main plot now? What did you learn? What did you learn as part of that process?
I mean, learning the basics really helped, because it's meant that I can plan our plot a lot better. I know sort of spacings and sizings, so my beds are all very specific to the kind of things we want to grow, with a little bit of flexibility to obviously move around because we don't want to restrict ourselves too much. But it kind of, having that basic knowledge and actually doing it for a year, seeing it go, it also gives me that motivation, that inspiration, because I know what I can do. I know what we can do. I should stop saying I so much, but I know what we can do. We kind of look back and we're like, right, we need to get this done, and that's why we're pushing it. It's why we feel defeated sometimes, because we're pushing and working so hard to make sure we're ready for May, so we can get stuff in the ground and we can almost hit the season running.
It's a bit like Adam Peaty, isn't it? That you just reminded me of him then, because he talks about all of the training that he does before he gets into these big competitions. And really, allotmenting is very similar, isn't it? You've got to do all the prep before, you've got to do all the work before, or when it comes to the growing, nothing's going to grow.
I completely agree. It's that carrot that's being dangled. It's almost the end point, and having the knowledge and the experience, it makes it all feel less daunting. Because I suppose when if you've not had that experience, you take on a new plot, you're a first time grower, you've got to do all the hard work to get it cleared and sorted and ready for growing, and then you're kind of like, oh gosh, I don't know what I'm doing. I've done all this work, and where do I go now? What do I do now?
And of course, we're obsessed with the weather forecasters and the weather forecast. Every day for years we have watched the weather forecast, and then when there's a frost about to happen and we've put our taters in or whatever it might be, there's a rumble that runs around this site. There's a frost coming, there's a frost coming, there's a frost coming, and so it goes on. Have you noticed anything similar about the weather fanatics yourself? Have you become one?
I have become one. I check the weather every day. It's every hour actually. I'm always looking, especially because it's so unpredictable and it's changing so much at the moment this time of year. I'm always looking through like, 3 o'clock we're going to have sunshine, or 3 o'clock it's going to start raining, and then it's moved back to 4. It's 3 o'clock again now. Oh, now it's 5. Like, we've got the time.
And it makes a difference to everything that's growing as well, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
So when we talk about the weather and how important the weather forecast is, it's only when you're doing it that you get it, don't you?
Yeah, 100%.
So you're on your new plot now. It's all very exciting, and we have been watching the progress of both of you because you are working so hard and so diligently. What's the thing that you're aiming for in this year?
Gosh, this year, just to get things in. That's the basic, the starting. I want to be able to grow something. We're keeping it as simple as we can by sort of going by a lot of the seeds that we had left over from last year. We're doing the things that we know we can do well, that we've done well already. A little bit of experimentation in there and a few things that we haven't done yet, but my main goal for this year is just to get as much produce as I possibly can and hopefully get it all up to where we want to be. I know it's going to be a long process, and we've, sounds bad, already started making plans for next year.
No, we always talk about next year, and it's not that far away, but I mean, what I'm interested in the fact that you have made a lot of friends on site, haven't you? You probably know more people on site than we do at the moment. Everybody looks and there's Callum and what's he up to? So do you think that's one of the unexpected bonuses that you had from joining the site?
It definitely is. It's such a community on the site, and you know, you're working away really hard and people will walk by and say hello, and then they say you've done a really good job, and that boosts your spirits as well, because obviously like I said earlier, you're working on it constantly, so you don't always see that development, that change, and when other people are pointing it out and noticing it, it's lovely. And
we noticed that you've been slipping over to Jan's plot to join her with a bottle of wine occasionally, haven't you?
I have.
Are you the allotment, please, Julia?
No.
I'm just wondering where our invite is. And on top of of that, we've also noticed the things that you make. It's not just about growing, but the things that you've been making as well that perhaps other people don't know about, like your hand scrub, for instance. Yes, you're looking at me. Yes, you did make it. Yeah, you made a Christmas present for us. It was a hand scrub.
It was, yeah. It was a nice, I think it was coconut oil, brown sugar and lavender oil.
And as soon as you open it, you can smell the lavender. It smells lovely. Yeah. So it's not just about the growing of everything, but it's why you're growing things and what you're growing them for. Is that right?
Yes, 100%. And it made absolutely lovely Christmas presents that a lot of people appreciated. And I've got loads myself because I love it as well. Yeah, I absolutely love taking anything I can from the allotment and creating anything from my gins to jams, chutneys. I want to get more into like some beauty products and stuff like that. My friend likes hair growth stuff, so I know you can use rosemary and stuff to make serums, which I'm planning on doing as well.
Don't let him near your rosemary bushes.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not. Anyway, Callum, really, thank you for joining us on the podcast. Thank you for updating us, and we'll continue to enjoy and watch your progress.
I think we need you on round about Christmas so that you can inspire other people as to what you're going to do with the things off your plot.
It would be absolutely lovely, and thank you for having me back on the show.
Subscribe to the Plotcast now. Search Potty Plotters Plotcast on Spotify or Apple Podcasts and click follow to never miss an episode.